Hey, pal.
How's it going, bud?
Good week?
Yeah, busy week.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild weather the last few days.
Yeah.
Hey, heard a few go-rounds here from OR earlier on.
Yeah.
Big storm outside at the moment.
Yeah, it's been crazy. We had a very hot and dry January. And, this last week, the storms are back with a vengeance. So it's obviously, that last little bit of summer.
Yeah.
But, so I'm enjoying the rain. And it's a nice bit of reprieve from the heat. But, it can't be bags of fun flying around in this stuff at the moment.
No, I don't envy the guys. Something a little different I thought we'd do. An article from Simple Flying sparked the idea the other day. Article was about the QRH, history of the QRH. So I thought we'd talk about the QRH, but maybe take it one step further. So we'll start with the Brown Air Advisory. And this week, the advisory, we'll chat about the QRH. But also, Ryan, let's take February as our aviation, our pilot training month. So we'll talk about a few things. QRH today, MEL, I think, the week after, RMM the week after that, and something else the following week, all right? We're not trying to teach it to replace any course you're doing, but maybe to help bridge the gap between the guys that are coming out of flight school, guys and girls coming out of flight school, and a lot of them now moving to airlines quite quickly these days. Jobs are open and available. So, help bridge the gap between the differences between flying at the flight school, flying your Seneca, and possibly going on to a bigger aircraft, and all those little extra things that the airline pilots have to do and deal with. Good idea?
No, it's a fantastic idea, but I totally agree, and I think it's a great topic for us to touch on. Not only are we going to be bridging the gap, like you say, between what is taught at the flight schools and then what guys end up learning when they join an airline environment and come here for training. Yeah. You often see that guys are going to use the QRH and then that 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah.
What exactly is a QRH?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, in the classroom we get to talk about it and sort of demonstrate it and go through QRH philosophy and. I think there's a lot to actually talk about and discuss with that. I mean, I remember the first time I ended up working with a QRH when we joined SACS, same thing. Had come out of corporate flying, charter flying. Had never really, done the type of training where we were taught to use a QRH or go into any of those sort of procedures.
Kind of expected to know what the hell it is. And
yeah. And, it's one of those things. I mean, it's obviously a very important tool in the flight deck, a massive part of the procedures. But if it's not used properly or understood properly, rather, it could be extremely dangerous as well. So, I'm keen to talk about this and, get into it. And let's expand on that a bit.
Okay, so basically to explain, quick reference handbook. You use inside a flight deck, and let's just go back. As I mentioned, a Seneca or a Cherokee, whatever you're flying. There's not much that can go wrong in that aircraft. You can have an alternator failure, engine failure, all those things. So you need to know how to handle all of those procedures. But when you fly an aircraft with more redundancy, anything up from 1900, ERJ 145, 320s, all the bigger airlines, you have to have a document, in this case a QRH, that you use to refer to things that are not normal in the flight deck. And that could be anything from a de-icing procedure, starting using the ground power unit as opposed to the APU, and anything that is not normal or abnormal. So some of them as well, they've got performance data in there, and it's a document that you will reference a lot, not just during simulator training, but in actual flying as well. Before we jump into it, has it ever caught you out before?
Yeah. In fact, just recently, it's no secret, we've been in the sim the last couple of weeks getting ready for our own IF renewals. And did a bit of an exercise the other day. And, as proficient as we are as, being trainers in this environment, no one is immune from getting caught out from that odd trap. And it's like I said, if it's not understood or used properly, it can catch you out.
Yeah, it can bite you.
Yeah.
Bit of advice that we give to anyone that comes for training is if you are in the airline environment, take out the QRH and have a look at least one of those abnormal checklists on a given day so that you're used to working with the document.
In fact, I would actually advocate that most guys in an airline environment flying any particular type, whether it's Imre, Airbus, Boeing, whatever, it was always told to us during our times at SACS, the instructors used to hammer on it. Guys, study the QRH. On those long sectors, pull it out, go through it, when you're at home with some free time or whatever. Just make sure you're always getting yourself up to date with it and au fait with what's actually going on there. Because there's updates that happen to the QRH as well.
All the time.
Sneaky updates that guys don't always know about. Yep. So, it's vitally important to stay with it.
Yeah, a critical tool. What I want to say, so the guys with a bit of experience that know all about this stuff, please shoot something in the comments. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, write something in the comments about maybe a time it caught you out or something useful that you should know about the QRH. Those listening on audio, maybe meet us on the Brane podcast Facebook page and just write a comment there. It'll be nice to hear from the guys that actually do use it on a regular basis, but obviously we're aiming this at people that haven't used this document before and trying to explain exactly what it's all about. So, sorry, Ryan.
No, I was going to say, it would be nice to hear from the guys because obviously we've got an idea to try and get some input from guys that fly various types in on the podcast as like Andrew shared with his wisdom on the 747. So, the different types of aircraft and the QRHs from them, because I know, the difference between a CRJ QRH and an ERJ QRH.
There's a difference.
There's definitely quirks in both types that you got to watch out for, and I'm pretty sure it's the same with Boeing, Airbus, all those different types. So it'd be nice to hear what's actually going on with those.
Yeah, you make a good point, and I think the danger comes in where the differences are so minute between aircraft manufacturers. That's what makes it tricky. It's not that it's a totally different type of document. It's a document that you're used to, but it is little intricate details there. Example, the one I'm holding up now for the ERJ. Everyone I've dealt with has been yellow, right? But I don't know if they're all yellow. Some of the Boeing ones I've seen have been white.
Yeah. There's all sorts of different ideas on the philosophy behind the color of the pages, etc., etc.
But the Embraer one, the one that a little bit different to what we were used to before, they got non-enunciated messages. They got the normal message index that you get from the ICAS, and then they've got a non-enunciated section as well.
Yeah.
So a little difference there, and takes a bit of time to get used to that.
Yeah. Other things with regards to QRHs, Embraer, for instance, they've got different versions. You've got your EASA version and the FAA version, so you've got to be very...
And the Brazilian version, of course.
Yeah. And added to that as well, we saw it with the CRJ QRHs. There's often an issue with the way the manufacturer, be they Brazilian or Canadian, French Canadian, translate the English.
Yes.
And you end up with these weird statements in a QRH, and that's not right. It's all because of translation.
Yeah.
So little things like that you pick up with experience on those things.
Make a difference. So one of the things I mentioned there was ICAS, so engine indicating and crew alerting system. That's what you have on a lot of these modern airliners, and that's basically like a fancy enunciator panel. And on there, you'll pick up a particular message. Hopefully not on 99 out of 100 flights that you do, that ICAS is going to be perfectly clear, hopefully all flight. But every now and again, you do pick up a message there. And any message that does pop up there, that's not a memory item. In other words, a memory item is something that we need to know the procedure on without looking at the QRH. But anything else, we're going to reference the actual QRH. And it's in simulator training, it's quite common. You work with the QRH a lot. But what you find, some of the guys that arrive at simulator training, they haven't worked with this document for 6 months, and suddenly now they are forced to use it. So the aim here, like mentioned, is to go through that document beforehand. Don't get caught out don't let it catch you out. Anytime in real life, so we spoke about simulator training where it caught you out the other day. Real life, ever caught you out, or not necessarily caught you out? Has it ever saved you from a situation? I'm putting you on the spot, but
look, I think in real world scenarios, definitely. I can think back of one scenario, quite funny enough, on the CRJ many years ago. I'd just come back from simulator training, and I think we'd done an exercise with regards to unreliable airspeed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite funny. I was flying into Cape Town, and as true as Bob, the exact scenario that we practiced in the sim happened to us in the real airplane. And, if it wasn't for the fact that I'd done that exercise and actually run through the QRH just 2 weeks before that in the sim, I think it would have been a very different scenario in the real world. I thank my lucky stars that we had the training, the quality training that we did back then. Because it could have been very different. So that's the one particular scenario I can think of for sure.
Caught you out at that point.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at an item here. So just a random one, and this is from a QRH, and it's got to do with the emergency exit that opens up. So it might not be open, but the message that you have is emergency exit open. Yeah. Underneath that, it's got RCAS caution, so it's telling you what the caution is, and then it's got the MFD indication. So the RCAS caution is what you're going to see on the RCAS page, and the MFD indication, what you're going to see on the MFD page. And then it tells you what to do. So fasten seatbelts on, affected exit check. So in that case, you'd have to contact the cabin crew member, get them to check that exit. It says remove passengers from the exit vicinity, emergency exit handle check pushed in. And then it's got emergency exit locked, yes or no. And then you follow everything down. It might lead to, if that message is still on, land at the nearest suitable airport. Oxygen mask as required, altitude 10,000 feet. And when reaching 10,000 feet, depressurize. That's the end of that checklist. But you can see that checklist is relatively short.
Yes.
But that procedure ain't a small procedure.
Yeah.
It's quite a major thing that you're going to have to go through. So basically that's something like a relatively common one you might get during simulator training that could possibly lead to a rapid decompression followed by an emergency descent. So now you've got your oxygen mask on, your goggles, doing this emergency descent, followed by a diversion to an alternate airfield. The workload just goes through the roof. But it all starts with this QRH.
Exactly, and I think to add on to that as well, it's vitally important that crew develop a bit of fluency with that QRH and how to hold it, how to use it, how to verbalize the checklist while you're reading through it. Because something I observed in the sim the other day was when I was actually reading the checklist and the pilot flying picked up on something that I'd said, and we could challenge each other and I'd say, confirm that. And he said to me, Shucks, had you not been saying that, I might not have become aware of it. So it was
emphasizing certain things.
Exactly. So it works very well in terms of multi-crew cooperation. But, knowing when the QRH actually ends, and then certain things like you might have to descend to start the APU.
Mm-hmm.
Do you stop the QRH and hold it in your hand? Do you put the QRH away? So it's all that kind of stuff. It's very, very important to get used to.
Well, you're referencing something there. Let's have a look at it now because it is a valid point. Here's one, electrical emergency abnormal. So this is again a caution message that comes up. And as you mentioned here, it's got APU at some point start. But if you're above your level that you can in fact start the APU, you're going to have to descend. And so you're going to have to somehow remember to go back, but you can't just stop and do nothing. You might need to carry on the other sequence of events and then go back to it.
Exactly.
When the workload in the flight deck goes up, not very easy to always do that. So it's a very much a multi-crew document that gets used. And as you mentioned, Ryan, it's, for those of you that are seeing the video, fine if you're listening to the audio, check out on the YouTube channel and you'll see what I mean. But basically, all these books are made that you can hold it so you can basically show one page at a time.
Yeah.
You don't want to have both pages open and show you both pages. You want to show the person one page, confirm it's the right checklist first, and then start working your way through this abnormal checklist.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously, when you get to a situation where you do have to pause the checklist, there's also no harm in just carrying on reading through things down the bottom, because there are instances where there are notes that could be of vital importance, and you don't want to have that catch up on you later on in the flight.
No, you don't.
Could affect your decisions, etc., etc. So, yeah, I mean, vitally important.
A useful tool. Just going back to, so we spoke about the whole ICAS, the way it works, the message pops up and you can reference the particular checklist as mentioned. One page at a time, I will confirm with you it is the right checklist first, and then we start working our way through that checklist. Different aircraft, you have an aircraft like the Airbuses, okay? A lot of the QRH checklist will actually come up on your eCam screen, so you can actually run through it there one at a time. I believe the 777 has got the same type of system, so a lot of it is done digitally on the actual aircraft. You don't have to actually reference a book. So some of them have a book like we've shown, others, digital on the actual aircraft, which makes it quite nice. I can imagine that going from a digital system to an analog system like we've shown you here would be quite a big jump backwards. The analog ones, like the book, you have to keep your place all the time. And obviously with that digital system, much easier to work with, I would assume. I've never used one, but I would assume so.
Then again, it would be really nice to hear from someone who does operate that kind of aircraft, albeit a 350 or 78, 777, or even these more modern next-gen corporate jets.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are fancy. Even the circuit breakers are digital, and it's all done in FMS. So, I'd like to hear how that actually works, and how much workload does it take off the crew?
Yeah, it must take a significant amount of load off the crew, I can imagine.
But then, what happens does that not take away from certain priorities, or the way things should be done in a certain order? I don't know. Does that not take away from?
I think if you just look at it from a holistic point of view, you've got this massive document in front of you. You get that engine failure, then it refers you to the single engine approach and landing checklist. Now you open that one and it's 2 or 3 pages long. There's this immediate anxiety just when you open this up. You think, geez, I've got to go through everything here. And often it takes quite a lot of time. That's why you would see pilots entering a holding pattern above an airfield, sorting a problem out. If you've been a passenger on an aircraft before, and the pilots mentioned that they're in the holding pattern, they're sorting out their checklists, that's what they're talking about. They're making sure that everything in the QRH is done. And oftentimes they might even go back and go through it again just to make sure. They'll ask themselves, right, how much fuel do we have? Do we have enough time? Can we check this again? And if they've got enough time and they've got enough fuel, you might get crew going through that whole checklist again just to make sure they've covered everything. Did they do the correct checklist? Yes. Just confirm again, was this the correct one, and have a look, and basically isolating the situation. So it's a hell of a thing to go through, but again, that's what makes airline flying so safe these days. And the crew are so well trained to deal with these abnormal situations.
No, exactly. I mean, I think where we're going into with that sort of the way the conversation's steering there is the QRH will ultimately lead you to having to consult some sort of a risk management model, which is a whole different topic. But it's great, like you say, you'll notice that guys enter a hold, spend some time, because there's a grocery list of decisions that need to be made, and all sorts of factors need to be taken into account. So, what I like about that is, in those sort of instances, you're not rushing, because they're rushing in any sort of instance like that, unless there's a fire or something like that, of course. Rushing will obviously create more holes than you actually need.
Make more mistakes, and that's what you don't want.
Yeah,
so you mentioned the RMM, risk management model. So we'll have a look at a generic RMM over the month of February in this sort of training segment. And we hope it does add a bit of value. I'm sure a lot of the youngsters will find a bit of value in that. And I think a lot of the guys take a lot from what the others have to say. So, do leave a comment and let us know what you think about it. Just one last thing to touch on. In an airline, how it works, you've got your PRFO, or person responsible for flight operations. You've got your chief pilots. You've got your technical pilots, your fleet captains, and all the rest. Generally, the performance, a technical pilot will look after everything to do with the QRH. So that's making sure the book is still in a good order, it's up to date, and like you say, a lot of updates, and you need the latest one. If something happens on a flight and you were using the wrong one, big problems for yourself and the airline.
Yeah. And of course, it goes without saying that it is a no-go item
Yeah,
not to have one on board. So
it is.
you know,
And you just mentioned the MEL, which we'll chat about next week.
yeah, no, look, it's great. I mean, it's there's so much to actually talk about, yeah, and it's a great thread of content for us. I think we're going to enjoy this month of these topics.
Yeah, no, cool. But don't worry, for the guys that enjoy the usual stuff, it's back to the news-based side of things this week. And a bit of news, the one that struck me first, Ryan, that brought back a bit of memories, I think, and probably for you as well. So Flybe, they have now officially collapsed again, and they in administration for the second time.
Yeah, it was pretty crap. When I saw that, I couldn't believe it. It actually resonated as a bit of deja vu for me, because it was January 2019, when Flybe closed for the first time. And then, well, we all know what happened after that. It was SA Express next, and then
The rest of
the
the
whole
world.
world just turned on its tits. But yeah, I mean, it really sad. I can't believe it, because it's the first bit of negative airline news
For a while.
that's come through in that sense, and yeah, pretty sad. But there was a nice message on LinkedIn from the CEO of Logan Air, who put out a nice heartfelt message to all the staff and crew there, saying, look, sorry guys, but I'm pretty sure in today's day and age, the crew and airline staff will be able to bounce back and find other work very quickly.
Yeah. But I'm sure there were still some diehard Flybe employees there that have been there a long time and it didn't work on the second attempt. So it's less than a year of operations since they got going again. But I want to know something else. And I don't know the answer to this question. Did they start operations again trying to stay as close to their former self as possible? They kept the branding, they kept the same routes, the same philosophy, same aircraft? Or did they try something now totally different? Did they try and change the whole? Did they change up to be a proper low-cost, high-frequency? Or did they change the way they did things before? Or did they try and adapt to the post-COVID world?
I get the feeling that it was just more of the same.
It looked like it was more of the same.
Yeah,
to me.
basically.
From the outside, it did.
Exactly.
And is that why it collapsed?
Yeah, because I mean, it didn't work the first time. Why would you go back to your old habits?
If Mango starts up tomorrow, the Pravin Gordon signs off on it, which he won't, but if he did, and there was funding, and the airline started up operations tomorrow, no doubt they would go back to the same color, the same philosophy. It was low cost before, but it would stay low cost. I doubt they would have the same tie to South African Airways that they did before. But again, is that not just a recipe for disaster from the start?
No, it is. It is. I mean, we said it the other day in conversation. It's a whole new world now. Things are different. You can't start up and go back to the same old ways. But no doubt they probably did try that. And like you say, if it were for Mango, it would be the same, because we've seen it with SAA version 2. South African
more
Air
of the
Twats.
same, yeah.
Yeah.
Way.
They don't look like they're trying to do things differently.
No.
So where's it going to go?
Where's it going to go? They weren't the only ones to go belly up over last weekend, though. Norwegian startup, I think it's Flyer, FLYR. They announced that it's got an inability to raise the cash it needs for its critical short-term liquidity situation. So they also went belly up. They launched domestic flights in June 2021.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it did international as well. So, yeah, a couple of airlines now falling by the wayside. Like you say, first bit of negative news for a while.
Yeah. No, look, it's for the most part, everything's been positive and had a really good upwards trend.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just hope that it stays that way from here on out.
I think it will.
Yeah.
I think the airlines that have become more resilient, you look here locally in South Africa, like Safair, they're so much stronger than they were pre-COVID.
No, they're booming. Just before we got the podcast started, I saw it was an article on Facebook. I was browsing through my phone quick, and they're getting another 3 more aircraft soon, expanding on the routes, more crew. So they're rocketing, man.
Airlink the same.
Yeah,
Semi the same.
yeah,
So
yeah.
no.
So
Yeah,
good.
I think the ones that have made it through are just so much stronger now going forward. Some news with Boeing, Ryan. This one is a proper catch-22 for them. I don't know if you've been following this whole story. I've been trying to keep up to speed with what's going on, but they're in they got a serious legal situation. Basically, yeah, you guessed it, to do with the 737 MAX accidents. And the whole thing is, do they plead guilty or not guilty? Now, what's happened is Boeing basically had to admit that there was the majority of the blame needed to be put on themselves. So they admitted to it. However, it doesn't mean they clean and free from this whole thing, because the victims of the families weren't involved in that decision that got made back in whenever that first Department of Justice exonerated Boeing. I'll find the date here shortly. But basically, the centerpiece of this deferred prosecution agreement was the company's unambiguous acceptance of responsibility. They accepted responsibility, but not really.
Yeah.
And now they're in a serious problem, because they've sort of accepted the responsibility. They can't really go back on it. So how do they handle this situation? Because if they are found properly guilty, then there's going to be more issues for them going forward. It's a hell of a long, drawn-out issue that they need to deal with. It's not going to be sorted out overnight. They're sort of making guesses at what the Biden administration is going to do about it. Remember, they were exonerated when Trump was still in power.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of sort of government pushback, and we're not really sure which direction it's going to go. Good article in the Air Current about it, but man, it's a long story. It's going to play out into a movie one day for sure, because the legal ramifications are massive. So keep an eye out for this one. It's not cut and dry, but it's an interesting story nonetheless.
No, it certainly is. And look, I'm all for Boeing putting through on this. I mean, they've got some good products on the way, the 777X, which I think, will be replacing most of the larger scale aircraft. Needs to get rolled out. And
the numbers with these are massive. So as part of the DPA with the DOJ, Boeing agreed to pay a fine of $243.6 million and established a $500 million fund for crash victim beneficiaries. The creation of another $1.7 billion compensation fund for airline customers that were affected by the whole MAX not being available. So a guilty plea now that could endanger its role as a government contractor with NASA and the Department of Defense. So if they are guilty, then NASA, Department of Defense, they ain't going to be using them.
Huge ramifications.
Massive. Legal experts told the Air Current that a not guilty plea risks openly contradicting the acceptance of the facts contained in the DPA and could constitute a breach of the agreement with the DOJ, opening Boeing to prosecution. So it's a serious thing. It's not just
yeah. Wow.
Keep an eye out for that story. Not the end of it. More flight cancellations in the States. Do you see that last week? I think it was Monday. Massive winter storms and cold fronts. More than 1,000 US flights cancelled and 4,500 of them delayed. Southwest Airlines saw the most cancellations, scrapping 483 flights, about 12%. How's that? 483 flights, 12% of its schedule.
Ridiculous, eh?
Yes.
I mean, that's like 100% of the flights in South Africa.
No, that's crazy.
It's just insane. But they've had a really rough ride this winter season in the States. Eh?
That's been wild.
Man, the weather's caused havoc. And the airlines are obviously bearing a huge brunt of it.
Yeah, It is hectic when the storms were hitting here today, and you have a look up the sky. You think to yourself, that's when you're earning your money as an airline pilot. And some of these storms you get in the States with these, and remember you got all the de-icing and that to do as well. There's a lot involved.
Yeah, look, you got all the extremes there. I actually saw a video clip of one of our ex-colleagues who's flying in the States now. He's flying a Technam for I think it's for Cape Air.
Yeah.
And he sent our mates this video clip where he obviously landed, but he was peeling off chunks of ice on his wing.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, from flying in 30, 40 degree heat here with high fault thunderstorms to bombing around in the States in a twin piston Technam, packing on ice like that.
Man.
The extremes are just
hectic.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be a passenger on Emirates flight EK448. They left Dubai at 10:30 a.m. on Friday the 27th, headed to Auckland, New Zealand. Plane was due to land 16 hours later, but met an issue at Auckland Airport, which got battered by rain. So chatting about all the weather. And Emirates had to turn around, fly all the way back to Dubai.
Yeah.
13 hours later, ended back in the same place.
Imagine a passenger in economy class. You got to be shattered.
Oh, man.
Then what? Shuttled off to a hotel somewhere to do that whole trip all over again later on. I don't think they're the only flight. There was a flight apparently from the States as well that had to turn around. It was quite fascinating because imagine now
Check the airport here in Auckland, though.
Crazy,
man. Stop looking at the picture on the right there. Right?
Oh, sorry, no, look, I was Weasel was the one.
No, pretty wild. But how much fuel were they tankering?
Jeez, I don't know. Well, I mean, they basically got halfway and turned around. So,
yeah,
yes,
pretty wild.
It's hectic though, because I mean, I saw someone on one of the forums.
Pretty shitty for a passenger.
Oh man, I would have been miffed.
Have you ever had one of those flights that you've actually turned around and come back?
No, touch wood.
International.
No, never.
I had it once coming back from some training in Paris.
Really?
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
So how far were you?
They just started serving dinner.
Okay, so about an hour and a half, 2 hours into it.
Yeah. They basically gave the dinner and they said, we're taking it back. They went and sorted a few things out. It took ages. We landed back. They had another aircraft for us, so there wasn't time to go to a hotel and relax and freshen up. Basically, in the airport, we waited. It must have been 6-7 hours later, airborne again.
Oh, no.
It was a nightmare.
Oh, no, that's just... Oh, man, it's terrible. The worst I've experienced was arriving at Paris for the flight home after flying in from, Morlaix. And then they told us, no, your Aries delayed till the next day. So they shuttled us off to a hotel.
That's okay.
That is okay. I didn't mind. I mean, but, that whole process, the inconvenience, it's not like, oh, well, quickly go to the hotel. It still took 4 or 5 hours to, get told where to go fetch vouchers, all that nonsense. So, it wasn't that bad, but, it's pretty shitty when you're traveling and that kind of thing happens. And especially when you're on your way home. You get up, your mind is ready, like, I'm going home, blah, 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 and then that happens.
Can you imagine now, you say going home, but now you're going off on a holiday. You've only got 2 weeks off a year to go and enjoy it.
Yeah, if that happens when you're starting your holiday.
You've got your kids. You got your kids with you going on this family. They all keen.
No.
Travel halfway, come back. They arrive. I think, what's this traveling story all about?
That's why I'm not planning to take my kids overseas until they're like 45.
They can take you overseas. Yeah, but it's no picnic when things go wrong.
No.
But safety first, of course.
Yeah, look.
They didn't have any other options there. And like you say, they were halfway. They would have landed 13 hours. So, it's a hell of a flight. But
the interesting thing was, in that Emirates case, I mean, they couldn't just divert into Australia, because the guys were saying, well, look, why not just go and land in Sydney, and at least you're that
why
much
didn't
closer.
They go to Sydney?
No, because there's visa issues. The Aussies are full of crap about who's allowed on, so...
Our numbers are climbing in Australia, so don't ruin it.
Am I not?
Go for it.
Oh, you're not allowed in the country, mate. You can't come into the country. You're going to leave you outside. You're going to go inside.
So was that the reason why?
Yeah, it was pretty much that. I mean, you got 500 odd packs in the back of this A380. Probably 5 of them would be allowed into Australia. And the rest would have to camp outside on the apron, until the storm had passed. So, like, no.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer. Sorry, guys. Turn back as... well, because the Aussies are full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shitty one. More positive news for the industry. Have you looked at all the job adverts that are out at the moment?
There's
locally in South Africa and, of course, abroad? There are plenty.
There's lots.
So much so that Cathay are sent out an advert to all their old crew members to please, if you're interested in coming back, to accept your old position back, they'll take you back, but you must apply first.
And your old position in the seniority list.
Correct.
My man, you know what that's saying.
Yeah.
If they're getting to those levels of desperation, they'll give you back your seniority. It's quite something.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely sweetens the deal. But yeah, it's incredible. The opportunities and that are available now are
Plentiful.
Hey, there's lots and lots. I mean, it was nice to hear from one of our old mates from Hong Kong during the week who obviously listened to last week's show and confirmed the fact that everyone's still there, but things are getting better there. And
It's really good news.
yeah,
So many expats there, so it had to improve.
yeah.
But this advert from Cathay sort of sums it up, I think. That's kind of saying it's done now.
Yeah,
Everything's back. Come take your old job back, seniority back. This is the contract you had. We'll give it back to you. Off you go. Back to normal.
Yeah. There's a bit of love being thrown back at the pilots in terms of
3 years later?
Yeah.
Jeez, not bad.
Not bad. I mean, it came about a lot quicker than we expected.
Back to normal. But on the website as well, is particularly one I was looking at, there are lots of jobs available. Most of them, of course, they want type-rated guys and girls. That's obviously because they can get them up and going quicker, which is understandable. But there are the odd ones that are accepting non-type-rated pilots as well. So you just got to look. I mean, if you are looking at getting out the country wherever you are in the world, you just mentioned now the demand for Australian pilots in the States is massive. So a lot of Australians moving to the States opens up doors in Australia.
Exactly.
There's a lot of South Africans in Australia doing really, really well at the moment that are having a really good time.
Exactly.
That are advertising hey guys, this is the business, come across here.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a lot of South Africans in Australia soon.
No, there's no doubt about that.
No.
That's going that way. I mean, so much so, I think is it Piedmont in the States?
Yes.
They're offering something like $100,000 sign-on bonus.
Yes.
I don't know what the fine print is behind it. We were actually just discussing it in the passage earlier with someone, but I meant to look into it. But $100,000 sign-on bonus, and then if you refer your mates or entice your mates to join as well, you get extra bucks.
That's crazy.
So
that's awesome.
hey,
That's awesome.
we're about to go and make
Some decent mullah. Yeah.
there's got to be some tricks to that though. It can't
I
it
don't
can't be
know.
as good as it sounds. But
The rest of the world is pumping. It's only here on the southern end of the African continent where things are still pear-shaped.
yeah.
Speaking of pear-shaped, have you seen our new Johannesburg mayor?
Oh my man. Jeez. Yeah, there's 2 brain cells there.
Yeah.
One's lost, the other one's looking for it because that's just
We're hitting rock bottom. I tell you what, it's flipping scary at what's going on in this country at the moment.
No,
It
it's
really,
right.
really is. And that, again, it just encourages this movement overseas with professionals, not just pilots, of course, but professionals of all sorts. People can't deal with it anymore. 10, 12-hour long days full of load shedding. This mayor, I think he's an expert in Islamic studies or something like that. Like, that's what we need at the moment, I think he was asked a question the other day, what are you going to do first? What's your first action to take? And he said he's going to fix the potholes. It's like, we got half the city's got no water. You got no electricity as well, but we're going to have lack of potholes fixed. So.
It reminds me. I saw a post the other day from Kevin Fraser. You know the
Yeah.
Yes, he's funny.
good, eh?
Yes, I follow that
That's
religiously.
excellent.
He's so funny. But
Yeah.
there's a picture of him on safari somewhere, and he's swimming in this river.
Yeah.
You know, and his phrase at the bottom of the picture was like, "For you exit asking, no, I wasn't away on safari swimming in a river or a beautiful dam or anything. That's me trying to climb out of a pothole on William Nicol."
Yeah, jeez.
So true. Jeez.
So Joberg is a rank at the moment, eh?
Yeah, no, look, it's
But it's a sad state of affairs. Eh? It really is. I don't want to harp on about it, but I am because it sucks.
yeah, it's our home. You know, you don't want to leave it by any stretch of the imagination, but shit, at some point things are going to turn around. Eh?
Oh, but you know, you have to take action, Ryan.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't just think that things are going to stay the same or going to improve when you've got the same people in power that aren't doing anything. You've seen it with locally, yeah, with the airlines, staying with aviation, of course, but you see it everywhere.
Yeah,
If you don't make a change, you don't not proactive about enforcing the change and implementing things that actually work with people that know what they're doing, going nowhere slowly, unfortunately.
yep. So we'll hopefully. I don't know. When do you think they're going to start to see the light?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Another light aircraft crash in your old hunting ground,
Yeah,
Nelspruit. I think it was a Bonanza.
Bonanza E33. Yeah, 44-year-old businessman.
Is it? Fatal injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good.
So
Too many light aircraft crashes.
far too many, man. Far too many. And you know, just we have to ask. You know, why? You know, is it because guys are just way too maverick, or what's it?
I don't know.
Trying to be cowboys out there now in general aviation, or is it a lack of training? Or
There's no report out. You know what the weather can do in that part of the world.
yeah, you don't mess around.
You don't mess around
in the
there.
low felt with low cloud,
And that weather comes in so quickly there as well.
Yeah.
High mountains everywhere. So, no, we don't know. The report's not out. We won't comment on it yet. But too many pranks. Not good to see.
No, not at all.
I want to mention, we spoke about the job market overseas. The job market locally is really good as well. If you're looking for a job at SEME, so let's have a look what they say here. So vacancy alert, they need CRJ 100, 200, 900 captains, Dayshed 100, 300, Q400 captains, CRJ 100, 200, 900 first officers. And let's see what they need for a captain. South African citizen, ATP, 3,500 hours. That's not bad. 1,000 hours PRC, 500 hours on jet on 121 ops. And your passport, all the normal stuff, RNP endorsement, training bond. What's your take on a training bond, Ryan? And must be willing to undertake contract work. That's pretty standard. What's your opinion of a training bond? Someone the other day posted something on Fly Africa, and I think they were whining a bit about being held to their training bond, and the company that they were flying for basically are sticking to the actual contract there and saying, no, you must pay up.
Yeah, look, I'll wear two hats on this one. I mean, there's that of the pilot, and yeah, to have a training bond sucks because, you know.
Has it ever affected you though?
Well, no, but I'm kind of different. You know, I'm pretty set in my ways, and I know the direction that I want to take. At SACS, I was happy for a long time. So I accepted.
And
the
you were
training
there
bond
for a long time, so the training bond fell away.
Exactly. So I wrote it out, and you got to stay committed. You go to an airline for a specific reason.
Do you want to explain what a training bond is, first of all, to the youngsters out there that might be looking at opportunities now with airlines like SEME?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily negative, the training bonds, but they're not for everyone.
So, yeah, look, the training bond is, it's a nice thing to have as a barrier of entry into an airline. You know, if an airline is going to accept you non-type rated and say, look, we'll pay for your training, it might cost 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 rand, but we'll give you the type rating, and then you need to agree to work for us for a specific amount of time. That's usually 3, 4, maybe 5 years.
Yep.
But if you choose to leave the airline before that, you will have to pay the amount back. Some airlines, obviously pro-rata it, and you will pay back an amount of less what you've worked off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to articulate it properly, but
I try to look for that statistic. Basically the airline has got so much out of you already, so the remaining amount you'd be liable for. But what I found is most of them, looking around, you actually liable
for a whole lot more.
More.
So, I agree with training bonds, but they have to be fair. I don't think they're fair when the airlines try and nail the guys for more than what they were actually needed to pay back.
Yeah, and obviously wearing the other hat now, the airline as well, they have to survive. And what they can't do is invest time and money in a particular pilot, waits till he gets a certain amount of hours, and then says, right, so I'm going to take all the training and the experience that I've gained with you guys, and I'm going to go utilize it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So there are two sides to it. Yeah. The airline's got to survive, and the pilot has to survive. But you know what you're signing at the beginning. So I didn't have much sympathy for this one I saw on Fly Africa where they were moaning about it. It's like, well, you saw the contract, you signed the contract. What are you moaning about? That's what it says.
Exactly. Yeah, I know you can't whinge about it after the fact. And I mean, it's very different if you're someone with experience, and you go and join an airline like with a type rating, and then they try and rebond you for recurrent training. That I don't agree with. But if you like desperate to join an airline and you're looking for that barrier of entry, and you jump and you sign that contract, accepting it, you must take what comes with it.
I agree with you. And the barrier of entry is the fact that you don't have the type rating required.
Or the experience, yeah.
Or the experience. So you're sitting there with, you want to go get a job on a 320 and you don't have the rating. Yeah. Of course, the company's going to have to put you through that rating for a cost.
And the airline's obviously forcing that sort of loyalty on you in a sense because, we used to see it quite a lot where guys very often at S Express would, get command on the Q400, and then 2 weeks later they were off to SAA. And the airline had just forked out thousands for upgrade training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because those guys had been there for quite a long time, there was no training bond.
Bond had fallen away.
So that would hurt any airline, any company. So, yeah, I get it from an airline CEO's point of view, but it does suck. For a pilot, when you are desperate to leave and move on, like for instance, like we are in South Africa, guys see the opportunities overseas. They want to move their families, abroad for better lifestyle conditions, etc.,
better mayors,
but less potholes, electricity, all of that good stuff.
All of those,
all the essentials,
all those fundamentals of life.
Let's not even get into the water situation. But anyway, and then a lot of guys are trapped because of a training bond, and that
kind of sucks.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So I get it, and I feel for the guys in that predicament.
Yeah.
But you just got to ride it out, man.
You do.
Find the bucks and pay it, and buy your way out.
I think that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Pay your way out, and then you can still make your move. And if you make it to, not that we can do it too easily at the moment, but if you go to the States or something and you get your startup fee of 100,000 USD, I'm pretty sure it'll cover your training bond.
But I think there are a lot of guys in that sort of situation where they've racked up so much debt in training bonds because they've skipped from one organization to the next. So you go and join a place like Piedmont, take your $100,000, and you're not off to Miami Beach and buying a Ferrari, but you're paying back training bonds.
Yeah, training is an investment. There's no question about it. I enjoyed it today, chatting a bit about the training side. I hope people found it valuable. I realize that a lot of our viewers know about these things already, but obviously trying to expand the umbrella a bit there, and it's quite nice to actually go and look at the subject from a podcast angle. How can we talk about this from a podcast perspective? Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of enjoyed it.
I really loved it. It was a great
conversation. What should we chat about next week, the MEL or the RMM?
Let's dive into the MEL a bit,
okay.
And then maybe follow on with the RMM from there.
Agree.
See how it goes.
Yep.
It's been an epic conversation. Absolutely loved it today, cuz.
Plans for the weekend?
I don't know yet. I'm gonna have to see what Val's lined up for me.
1 or 2 beers.
I'm sure.
Thanks, pal.
Cheers, man.
Have a good one.
What's that thing? Fuck, we good at.
We legit.